The World Cup is coming in about 8 months or so. Ticket prices for the USMNT and Mexico and Canada games are pretty much a thousand for a decent seat, Michael. I think a lot of people in the States, and I know you're also, half American, had hopes for this World Cup, right? We thought it's an opportunity to show how the sport has grown in the States, to have a joyful summer, the first one since 94 that we're hosting. But given everything that's going on, I personally feel almost like a bit withdrawn and a bit nervous about this tournament and what's going to happen.
I mean, it's not even just the ticket prices. I don't want to get political here, but I just have to sort of make this mark that they denied the visas for the Iranian jurisdiction to go to the draw.
Yeah.
You're just setting a precedent that is terrible. Okay, so if the Iranians want to go watch their team at the World Cup, and obviously it's going to be very difficult for them because of the international relationship between the two nations, they can't. Their visas are going to get denied. What? This is supposed to be the FIFA World Cup, an inclusion of the entire world. Yes, Qatar had their terrible stakes about them because everything they did with the workers that sadly passed away, but it's just such a politically driven World Cup right now, and it's not going to end well. I can guarantee you. Obviously, everybody's crying about the World Cup tickets. To be honest, I'm not surprised by the prices. It's America. You go to any sporting event right now, you go to the NFL, you go to the NBA, you're going to pay money. It's not for the general public. This is not the Bundesliga where it's 12 euros a ticket and everybody's included. I'm sorry. It's just reality of American sports that they will drive up the prices like crazy. To be honest, I thought $60. I was expecting 150 for the cheapest tickets in the group stages. I think $60 is, I'm not saying it's fair, people, but I'm just saying that it could have been a whole lot worse. And some of the stadiums, if you're looking at the category 4 or 5 tickets, they're like way in the bleachers, and there's probably like only 1,000 of those tickets available. Yes, I even tried to get tickets. I haven't got any word. So I'm hoping to go to the World Cup because I still feel like it's going to be a joyous one. I feel like with just so many sort of immigrants in the United States, it's still going to be such a vibe. Yes, the overall with the ice and all that crap, it might dilute the atmosphere, but I feel like it's still going to be an atmosphere that I can enjoy. Something that's not very much seen within the American sports, maybe in college football, but everything around this World Cup right now. If the Qatar World Cup, if the Russia World Cup got all of this, even the Brazilian World Cup, if they got all of this shit, this one should be getting the same sort of publicity negatively. Everybody doesn't want to be negative because it's the United States. You have to be, because right now it's a disaster the way they're organizing it.
Right now, it also seems like a really bad idea to have stadiums to play football matches in stadiums made for American football. Like we said, the category 4 seats are all the way in the back, they're in another state practically. And I guess another, thing I want to ask is that I worry, as someone who's worked in journalism before, that this is just another sign of the times of what's coming in football in general, where it doesn't matter where a tournament's going to be, and FIFA and UEFA and whatever federation is just going to jack up prices no matter what, because they know people will have to pay it. And I worry you're going to see this happen for future tournaments, not just for this one because it's in the United States.
Oh no, I've already accepted it, bro. I don't know what it will be for the Asian Cup in Saudi Arabia in 2 years' time. Hopefully obviously, are all the group stages going to be sold out? Most likely not, but maybe they could have some fair ticket prices. But the Euros are done. They're going to be jacked up. Look at the Champions League final tickets. They're crazy. If you want to go see a Barcelona game, it's ridiculous prices. World Cup, I already expected it. I don't know what's going to be the case when it goes to 6-team World Cup next, when it's hosted in 6 countries next time around in 2030, but I think it's inevitable that we're going down this straight. Football used to be for the working class, but now it's for the elite. And I think people just need to accept it. We can try all we want, people. We can blame FIFA, we can blame UEFA, but at the end of the day, while the stadiums are still getting filled by the general public, FIFA and UEFA will not care. They'll keep jacking up the prices, keep going and going and going, and people will keep paying for it. Somebody around the world is clearly buying these tickets. It ain't me or Albert or people watching this video.
I think the reason I fell in love with the sport was because I was able to watch it on a Saturday with my dad on a random TV station, right? And now you're getting to a point where you have streaming. You have to pay for that. You got to pay for parking, concessions. You got to pay for overinflated jerseys. So I think everything is just getting corporatized to the point where the phrase the game is gone, kind of it does apply today. Obviously, I'm happy in a sense that the World Cup has expanded. Maybe that teams who didn't get a chance earlier could have a chance to showcase themselves. But again, that kind of dilutes the quality of the tournament itself. I hope that this World Cup will be somewhat decent, because I am worried, because I remember the Euros after they expanded from 16 to 24 teams. the quality of that tournament went down by a lot, in my opinion. And I think that could happen for this World Cup, but that remains to be seen. And I guess, Michael, before I let you go here, Finland. Are you guys going to qualify for the World Cup?
Why you asking such a stupid question, bro? We've never qualified. You know that, right? We've never qualified for the World Cup.
Yeah,
you made the Euros for our
first time though, 2021, right? Yeah.
I don't even remember that night when we qualified. I was so drunk. The hangover was crazy, but the night was awesome. And then it was during COVID. I had to wear a mask. I had to travel to Russia to watch the game. Oh, that was a total disaster in itself. But yeah, I would hope for Finland to qualify because that would probably be the moment where I'm like, I've watched everything possible in football, actually in sports, seeing my nation qualify for the World Cup. Obviously, supporting the USMNT as well. I mean, I saw the team do very well in the Confederations Cup. The 2014 World Cup was really the moment for me as like a footballing fan where I was very proud of a national team. But I mean, the USMNT don't give me any hope at the moment, and it just seems like the federation don't really care about the general public. They're like FIFA and UEFA, where they're going to keep jacking up the prices and getting away from the working class people and just going for the elites. Whereas there's a huge market to target for if you're the USA Federation. But they seem to not really care about that. And that's, obviously that's a whole different video as well, talking about, you've set up in the United States where you have to pay ridiculous prices to get your kids involved in the sport. I don't really love the direction the USMNT is going outside of the national team. But yeah, for Finland, I mean, we're not a footballing nation. Sadly, we're an ice hockey nation. And right now we're a basketball nation because now we got 2 almost NBA stars within our ranks. But I'm just hoping that I can at least get tickets for the World Cup next year and just enjoy the vibe. I just hope that it's always these cases with the World Cup. There's so much negativity talking about, you're talking about quality diluting, but I feel like there was so much discussion about the same thing when it got expanded to 32 teams. Everybody, 32 teams.
There was.
We're going to have the USA, we're going to have Canada, we're going to have Jamaica qualify. What are we doing here? And everybody loved the 32. Everybody said 32-team World Cup is the most perfect thing in this world. Now, we can see maybe the 48-team World Cup might dilute some quality, but I feel like seeing teams like Uzbekistan qualify, and Uzbekistan, these guys are a quality team. The fact they never qualified for World Cup is ludicrous to me, considering how well they've been in Asian Cups. Now that they qualified, let's see. Maybe their national team will take off from this moment. Maybe another national team like in Egypt and Algeria, who always are going to have quality. Yes, before it was so difficult to qualify from the CAF region. I think the only region where it is stupid to expand was CONMEBOL. Because why are you having 7 teams qualify? It's ludicrous to me, but let's see. Hey, if it gets to 60 teams, then I'm going to be really worried about the quality of the World Cup.
I think 64. It was 64, right? And I agree with you. I think if there was one region that deserved 1 or 2 more spots, it was Africa. I think considering how difficult that qualifying process is. Like South America, I already agree with you. A bunch of the teams already qualified. Expanding it to that much was crazy. As a dual national, I've talked about this on the channel before, but you and I both come from like 2 cultures. We're raised in 2 different places, but the USMNT definitely has a problem with attracting fans like us, right? I'm guessing you root for the USMNT, but you had to choose one. You're going to pick the Finnish team. If I had to pick one, 100%. I'm going to root for the Korean national team. And I see a lot of USMNT fans, especially on X, getting salty about that. And I understand where they're coming from to a certain extent. But at the same time, I feel like US soccer and just the country in general has done such a poor job integrating, fans from different backgrounds. Doesn't really matter their race or religion, but just like welcoming people in terms of the US soccer fandom. And I think that these people really need to do a lot of introspection, especially if they want this fan base to grow. And they're doing a very poor job of that because from what I'm seeing, at least in the Korean American community, these young Korean Americans, even if they speak English and have never been to Korea, they're going to show up hard for Korea and not come out for the USMNT next year.
From my perspective, I mean, I've only lived in the States 1 year, so it's kind of always difficult for me to have like a true connection with the USMNT and saying, yes, this is my team no matter what. I mean, I've obviously grown up in Finland for most of my life, but I've always seen the USMNT, when I was growing up at least, 2010, 2014, 2006, I could really connect with that team because it was such a diverse team, such a hard-working, when they talk about a hard-working American
grit, I always felt
American grit, oh my God, steel worker. That's what I felt like with that team from 2010 to 2014. Now with this team, you could talk about quality-wise, these guys are all playing all over Europe, but they don't have that same grit about them. And also, I think the federation has done such a poor job. They went away from being a working class sort of federation. All right, we're going to make the games cheap. We're going to make it very accessible for many sort of fans from different backgrounds to go watch the game. Now it's like, look at the Nations League final. against Canada. I mean, or at least in the third place game. The stadium was 1/20th filled with people because they said, oh, let's jack up the prices. They're doing such a poor job of marketing the sport. You're seeing the decline of baseball. Not many people care about baseball nowadays. Maybe some people are losing interest in the NBA, losing interest in the NFL. The U.S. Federation have such a golden opportunity to take advantage of a market that's, it's an open market right now. I think they've done such a poor job just targeting sort of just dual nats, people from different backgrounds. All right, let's integrate the Latino community. Let's integrate the African community. Let's integrate the Asian community and make it into one national team. But they've chosen not to go that way. They said, all right, let's just go the elite way. Let's just join the Louis Vuitton, the Gucci sort of guys. Whereas the U.S. Federation, they weren't even invited to the party.
And the players don't help either. I think when you have someone like Pulisic, who I think is a talented player, but kind of unlikable in a lot of his own ways with the stuff he says off the field, guys like Tim Weah, who talks about how, pundits criticizing this team are evil. I'm not one of those guys that thinks, the old school way was always better, but I think for the USMNT, the old school players were better. The way they fought for the team, the crest, the way they brought
sorry,
together.
Albert, but you know which players criticized them? Landon Donovan and Tim Howard. If there's two players that could criticize this national team, it's those two guys.
Who else? They gave us the two most iconic moments in recent U.S. soccer history, right? Howard against Belgium, Donovan against Algeria. So I don't understand where they're coming from, and it just really pisses me off because you want to root for the team, but if you don't like the players, it's kind of hard. And almost in the back of your mind, you're almost rooting against them. I'm not, but to be honest, I wouldn't be so devastated if this team crashed out the way I was in 2006 when they did really bad in Germany. I think, Michael, the only way that they can ever kind of make up for the damage that they've done in the past few years is if they have another iconic moment on home soil. And I'm not talking about a moment in a group stage, right? I'm talking about in a knockout game where you're down by a goal. The women's team have done that. Abby Wambach's header against Brazil in that World Cup, iconic, right? Donovan's goal against Algeria in the last minute. Again, a group stage game, but still high stakes. If they can't do that, then I think you could lose a potential another generation of fans, because now with social media, Michael, this is the first World Cup where it's going to be the TikTok World Cup. I'm going to call it the TikTok World Cup, right? You have a bunch of kids from different states and American expats too, Americans who live abroad, who are going to be watching this. So if they screw this up, it's going to have reverberations for generations, in my opinion.
Oh no, this is kind of like South Korea. Obviously, you're going to have a better perspective from it from 2002. This is the make or break sort of World Cup for the USMNT. If the South Korean team did horrible in that 2002 World Cup, they went out in the group stage, for example, do you think the sport would have taken up?
So wouldn't exist.
Exactly. So now this is really the make or break World Cup for this USMNT. If it goes terribly, I have no clue where this federation, where this national team go. It will just be like Nigeria. Nigeria haven't been a solidified World Cup team for the last two World Cups. It could get down to that, but you look at the population, the popularity of the sport in Nigeria, they should be one of the best teams in the world. They're not. The USMNT, this is such a make or break situation with this World Cup. If they do well, maybe then younger people look at the sport and saying, obviously still, they have to work on making it more cheap for everybody having an accessible way of playing the sport, but it's just so many factors heading into this World Cup that, yes, we can talk about Pochettino, we can talk about the national team, but it is so vital for them to at least make it to the round of 16. Yeah, you could talk about sporting-wise, it would be fantastic, but just for the morale of the sport within the country, which is right now, let's say, the fifth most popular sport behind ice hockey. You could talk about figures-wise. You could say, oh, there's more participation within soccer. It doesn't matter. If you watch the actual coverage of the sport in the United States, ESPN don't care.
The Stanley Cup playoffs get way more coverage than the MLS by far.
Oh, easily. So this is such a vital World Cup, I think, for any national team, for me, in history. Yeah, you can talk about Brazil 2014, but Brazil will always love football, no matter what. For the USMNT, if they want to take that next step and being a powerhouse within football, they have to get to a quarterfinal, minimum, and beat a European team.
Yes, quarterfinal and beat a European team, because what have people been saying? Oh, these U.S. players are not good enough to play in Europe. They're overrated. They're overhyped. If you beat a European team in a knockout stage game, you shut those haters up and you prove that American soccer is as worthy as it is of the hype that people have been giving them. And I think that one thing I'll say as I close out is that a message to the fans, if any are watching, I think what we have to do is also as fans be gracious hosts. Be aware of what's going on in the States. Be aware of the political situation. show that, we could put on a joyful tournament despite what's going on the outside. And then hopefully the players will benefit from that as well. Because I think it's just so toxic, the fandom right now, what I'm seeing on social media. It's bad. And it's kind of sad, it's really sad.
Yeah, it is. It is really sad. It should be more of a joyful, sort of hopeful, and being like, "Hey, let's get the NBA fans involved. Let's get the NHL fans involved into this." Obviously, it will be around the same time as the NBA
Stanley Cup playoffs,
the
Stanley Cup and NBA playoffs,
Stanley Cup. So this is a great opportunity to integrate all sports fans. Nobody's going to care about baseball in the middle of June. Nobody cares. Nobody's going to care.
Nobody cares about it now. I'm just kidding.
Nobody cares. Well, nobody cares about it now, except for maybe Japanese and Canadians because how well the Blue Jays are doing. But this is such a golden opportunity, even like for you and me, both having like dual nats. It's like, please just do it well. Just do it well and make yourself proud. And for guys like Pulisic to Timothy Weah, you've gotten so much negativity. This is the golden opportunity. Shut them up. You can do your stupid Trump dance. I don't care. Just ball out.
It'll make people like us shut up too and stop criticizing you. We don't want to criticize the USMNT. We want them to do well, but we have to call balls and strikes the way it is because we analyze the sport. And I hope that they do well, and I'll be very happy. Michael, thanks for coming on. Anything you want to plug as we lead up to the World Cup for you?
I'm just covering all international football at this moment in time. Also, if you guys love Champions League football, I cover that as well on the channel. But next year, oh boy, I'm going to have to preview all 48 teams of the World Cup. Obviously, I'll get Albert on for the South Korea preview, so we'll talk about that. So if you guys really want to see all World Cup preview, remember to subscribe to Michael Talks Football, and of course, subscribe to Albert's channel as well.
You heard him, folks. All right, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next one.